Oppression in History by Wahid Ahmed. Today I will talk about oppression in history. You will see how people suffered as victims and how oppressors overexerted their power. I will describe to you the sufferings of the Bosnians, Navajos, and lastly the Palestinians. They are all the victims of oppressing countries and governments. First of all, we will discuss the oppression that the Bosnian Muslims faced. In Bosnia, the Muslims were 40% of the population. The Serbs were 31.4%, and the Croats were a mere 17% of the total population. The Serbs and the Croats started the Bosnian War because they apparently feared persecution from the Muslims. The Serbs and the Croats hated and killed all Muslims, whether they were women, children, or old. It seems that the Muslims would have more power, but in reality, the Serbs and the Croats were massacring the Muslims. It is more accurate to refer to this tragic event as genocide instead of a war. The Serbs and the Croats were killing the Muslims because of religious discrimination. The Bosnian War first started in April 1992 when efforts for peace failed. Many towns in eastern Bosnia were attacked by a combination of paramilitary forces and Yugoslav army units. This was the first main attack in what is now known as ethnic cleansing. Ethnic cleansing is the process of mass killing and driving away all the people of a specific race or ethnicity from an area or region. The Bosniaks were the main victims, and the Serbs were the main perpetrators and attackers. The Bosnian government was weakened because of fighting with the Croat forces. Later, the Bosnians and the Croats agreed to form a joint confederation, meaning that they decided to work together. The worst example of genocide in the Bosnian War was the Srebrenica massacre. 8,000 Bosnian Muslim men and boys were murdered, and the remainder of the population, about 25,000 or 30,000 Bosniak women, children, and elderly people, were forced to leave the area. Secondly, we will be talking about the oppression of the Native Americans throughout history. From Columbus's arrival to America in 1492 until today, Native American tribes have been oppressed and cast down. In the 1800s, their land was invaded and they were forced onto reservations. In the Indian War, many Native Americans were labeled as hostile and massacred by the Union Army. Even the reservations and the Indian Territory was taken over and settled by white men. And today, the major tribes that once flourished all over North America are all but gone, with only a few small reservations to live on. Reservations are federally owned plots of land which have been allotted to Native Americans and are managed by an official Native American tribe. While they once basically owned America, they are now herded onto small plots of land. Reservations emphasize the cruelty America has showed Native Americans. The Navajo Nation. In 1864, thousands of Navajos surrendered to the American soldiers and were forced to endure what is now known as the Long Walk to Fort Sumner, New Mexico, where they lived in horrible, struggling conditions. The Navajo Reservation was established after the signing of the Treaty of 1868, and the Navajo were finally allowed to return to their homeland. At that time, it was a very small plot of land. Since then, the Navajo Reservation has expanded significantly to 27,000 acres. As of today, there are over 150,000 people, most of whom are American Indian, living on the Navajo Nation reservation. Oppression in Palestine. A major example of oppression that is happening right now is the situation in Palestine. According to the international criminal law, Israelis are persecutors of the Palestinians, and the Israelis are murdering them. They are being denied basic human rights as well as their social justice. Palestine has been suffering from oppression and social injustice for 70 years. Social justice is when wealth, opportunities, and privileges are given to the inhabitants of a certain society or area. Because of the Israelis' oppression, over 70% of the Palestinian families live under the poverty line.